The hour had come. It was time to warn the world. And God assembled his troops to get the job done. He started with a 17-year-old girl on the verge of death. A 23-year-old minister who became her husband. A 20-year-old student, Jan Andrews. A 20-year-old Stephen Haskell. A 20-year-old Uriah Smith. These are the shock troops that God is going to use to shake up the whole world. None of them, except for James White and Joseph Bates, over 20 years old. What kind of an army is that? They were going to take on the whole Christian world. He was going to use them to overturn 1,800 years of theology. Isn't that interesting? Did God really do this? It seems incredible, doesn't it? Counsels to Writers, page 28. God has given me light regarding our periodicals. What is it? He has said that the dead are to speak. How? Their works shall follow them. We are to repeat the words of the pioneers in our work, who knew what it cost to search for the truth as for hidden treasure, and who labored to lay the foundation of our work. They moved forward step by step under the influence of the Spirit of God. One by one, these pioneers are passing away. The word given me is, let that which these men have written in the past be reproduced. Now, these words have never gone away. They've never been rescinded. These words are enforced. These words are from Jesus himself. Reproduce the words of the pioneers. We as a people must live by these words.
Greetings. Okay. So we've been having this running conversation about the King of the North in the book of Daniel, chapter 11. And principally there are two views surrounding that King of the North issue. With regard to the identity of the King of the North, that's the thing, because it affects how the final verses of Daniel 11 are interpreted. So the first view is the King of the North as the papacy, and the other one is with regard to Turkey specifically, and in general, like Islam or a Turkish-led Islamic caliphate. So the genesis of this thing has to do, well, it goes all the way back, and it has to do with especially verse 45 of Daniel 11, because the next thing that happens is the close of probation. So the proponents of the Turkey view are adamant that this is the only sign, the only world history sign that God has given with regard to events, with the event that just takes place before probation closes. I'm assuming that you've come across this. If not, please take a minute and just read through Daniel 11. There's a document I did, and I will share it to anybody who wants it. on the basic history. Most of it is agreed between these two factions until verse 40. But I discovered that the disagreement goes far back, even before verse 40. So that is one. So I think in speaking to the people who believe King of the North is the papacy, there are just a few questions that have to be answered as well, because this is not it's not about your favorite preacher versus my favorite preacher. It's what does the text say? So the question is, because usually you're going to find that people feel that saying that the King of the North is Turkey is taking away like the limelight or the focus from the papacy. Well, that if the Bible says so, then is it that the Bible is taking away the focus away from the papacy? I don't think so. I think this sentiment is also closely tied to, fears of because like the idea is that we are taking away the focus from the papacy, and that this is it's a Jesuit teaching, or a Jesuit inspired distraction to take away attention from the papacy. And usually it's coming from a place of, because I used to believe this. I used to believe that the King of the North was papacy for a long time, and it made a lot of logical sense until I actually read and tried to understand the whole chapter, the whole chapter, each verse specifically as it flows. Yeah, because most people you're going to find they haven't sat down to look at the verses themselves. They've had this idea about the King of the North being papers from preachers mostly. Even me, I had it from preachers, but to sit down and to read and to try and understand verse by verse, majority of people haven't done that. And you're going to also find many people, they do it to confirm their bias. If the very few who do it, I know that's an innate, but I'm saying that as someone who's been there, because I used to believe it, and I know exactly why, because a large part of my influence came from the speakers I had. So, in essence, there's an emotional defense that is triggered, because there is a preacher that you trust, and how could he be wrong? I think that's the wrong way to approach Bible study, especially something as important as what happens before probation closes. We've not been given timelines, we've been given events, and that's what we need to understand. Something else is, it's also like there's this irrationality around uniformity. What I mean by this is, people will look at Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel 8, and then ask, where's Turkey? Where's Turkey in all this? And yet we know that even with those prophecies being the same prophecy, God keeps on adding information at every turn. That's number one. Number two, Daniel 2, Daniel 7, and Daniel 8 have nothing to say about the close of probation. Okay? So there's nothing specific there about the close of probation. There's a talk about, in Daniel 8, we have the Day of Atonement. Okay? That's the information that is, and it's an expansion of what in Daniel 7 comes up as the investigative judgment, because over there in Daniel 8 we have a bit more detail. There's a time prophecy that is given when this is to begin, unto 2,300 days, Daniel 8:14. Then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So there's a time prophecy attached to it, even though in Daniel 7 we're just told, the thrones were set, and they were sat, and then the books were open and the judgment, began. So in Daniel 8, we're given more detail about it. In Daniel 2, there is hardly anything about judgment except the stone that is cut out without hands. But that's in reference to at the very end when Christ comes to establish his kingdom. So at every instance, more information and details are added. And in Daniel 11, we are actually told about the events preceding the close of probation, okay, when that investigative judgment is finished. And it's so important because this is additional information that is not in Daniel 8, it's not in Daniel 7, it's not in Daniel 2. But our minds have been so wired to look for uniformity in everything, such that we have to eisegetically look at the scriptures to force the scriptures to say something they're not saying, because there's a new information here that doesn't fit but it's not in contradiction to these things. It's additional information about a specific event. A specific event, in fact, that is not particularly mentioned in the previous 3 prophecies, reiterations of the prophecy. So I think it's not a well thought out response to say, yeah, where's Turkey in Daniel 2, 7, and 8. It also brings up a certain issue regarding the papacy, as though one of the signs, one of the qualifications for the beast power is King of the North. That has never happened. The title of King of the North has never been a qualification to identify who the Antichrist is. It has never. So when someone says the King of the North is Turkey, and someone automatically intimates that, are you saying that Turkey is the beast or the Antichrist? I think that's a fallacy, because the title King of the North has never been an epithet of the Antichrist. It has never been. And you can read through Ellen White, you can read through it. The King of the North thing has never been an epithet. You can read through any of the Christian writers ever in history. But the King of the North, we know where it comes from, because in the chapter, we are dealing with the division of Alexander's empire. After he conquers the Persians, and he extends his empire all the way to India, and then he dies without a designated or heir who has strong claim to the throne. And there's this 20-year civil war between his generals, and it ends in stasis because 4 of them emerge to be the strongest, and they divide or carve up the empire between themselves. As that fighting was going on, of course, we know about Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. Yeah. So Lysimachus was to the west. You remember the 4 winds scattered to the 4 winds of the earth. So to the west you had Lysimachus. To the north you had Cassander. To the west you had Cassander. To the north you had Lysimachus. To the east you had Seleucus. And then you had Ptolemy to the south. And this is the origin, because it's a physical, it's about physical location. And I think we all agree with this, because this is at the beginning of Daniel 11 as the chapter unfolds. And then begins the what are they called? I keep on forgetting the Greek. Okay. The wars between the these four powers. Okay, I'll remember the name. So yeah, so this was one by one. Lysimachus conquers Cassander, and then Seleucus conquers Lysimachus. So when Seleucus, he's from the east, right? When he conquers Lysimachus, let me just confirm this. Yes, when he conquers Lysimachus, he becomes the king of the north. He conquers the area that occupied what is geographically north to Israel in the prophecy and also in the geography. So he becomes king of the north. He's no longer simply king of the east. He has conquered Lysimachus, who was king of the north originally, but who ended up conquering the west, uniting the west with the north. And now he is both king of the north and king of the west. And then finally, in turn, he is conquered by Seleucus. If you might remember, Seleucus occupied Babylon and Persia, which is to the east. So he comes over and takes both Syria. He takes Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, which is now the area of the king of the north, which was Lysimachus previously. And then he becomes king of the north. And now you only have king of the north and king of the south, which is Ptolemy in Egypt, the Ptolemaic dynasty. And then it goes on, this confrontation, because they all want to be the sole heir to Alexandria, to Alexander's kingdom. And so it's a geographical thing. Now, there's something else here.
Prepare the way for those who have a burden. It says, for there are many souls to come out of the ranks of the world, out of the churches, even the Catholic Church, who is zeal. The people in those churches who come out, yes, they're going to come out. Isn't that what we're supposed to tell them? Come out over my people. There are Christians in those churches who will come out, and when they come out, what are they going to do? He says their zeal will far exceed that of those who have stood in rank and file to proclaim the truth. They're still out there, the people who are going to do a better work than we've been doing. She says many Jews are going to come out, and they will come into the real gospel message. And she says these people will be mighty in the scriptures. Yeah, they have all the Old Testament behind them. These mighty men from the Jewish church will become real Christians. Not Messianic Jews. We're not talking about them. We're talking about real Christians, real people who love Jesus and will do whatever he says. When you come in to investigate, you stay open to hear God tell you something. She says, when a person doesn't want to investigate with an open heart, it makes me want to flee. I'm afraid of that place. So I can't blame anybody for fleeing because they're afraid of that place. Our job is not to judge anybody. But our job is to warn anybody who will listen that religious liberty is what it's all about. Folks, we need to be converted to religious liberty. We need to get it and we need to give it. God's church defends freedom of religion and religious liberty. That's the
That's the church that can listen to anybody talk and say, let's see what the Bible says.